Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Flames. We are wrapping up this week with some more free agency news and some names that perhaps the Flames missed out on that could fill some holes that are there. And of course, it's Friday, so we are doing our weekly winners and losers. And I promise it is not who you think it is.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to Locked On Flames. As always, I'm your host, Jess Belmosto, and thank you so much for tuning in. You can find the show wherever you get your podcasts. We are available on Spotify, Stitcher, Audible, Apple, YouTube, of course, for free. It's always going to be free, so you should definitely tune in. And I figured we could talk about some names that have been crossed off, and the Flames pool of free agents gets smaller and smaller. So we do have to talk about that, but then we can end the show on a little bit more of a happy note, I suppose, with our winners and losers of the week. So this has been a little bit of a chaotic week. I understand that a lot of us are feeling a lot of different emotions, and I'm not one to police how people feel, but I think giving Gaudreau the John Tavares treatment is a little bit overboard. Honestly, I really do. So, who are some names that the Flames missed out on? I think that Marcus Johansen is one of those players that can be very valuable in terms of depth and a solid defensive forward. I think he would have done fantastic in Sutter's system, but he finds himself back in Washington, D.C., where he started his career. I think that after 2019, though, he did kind of take a little dip, but then again, when you look at the players he was playing around versus what he was playing around before, that plays into it. Frank Vatrano. I would have loved to had him on this team. I loved him when, he wasn't a Bruin for very long, but, watching him kind of develop there and then really find his footing in Florida before being traded to New York at the deadline. It was just such a great deal for him. And he had himself a really nice playoff run with the Rangers, and it made sense that someone was just going to overpay for him. That's just how this works. It's free agency. You have a good playoff run, you're getting paid. I think it's three for three in Anaheim. So, I think that's a pretty fair deal, but I look forward to that. But I do think he would have been really nice in the Flames locker room. I think it's just something that the Flames need. They need someone who is speedy. They need someone who can fire the puck off. They need someone who has confidence when shooting the puck. So it's really great, to see him land somewhere, but I wish it was just a little bit north of the border, right? Andre Palat could have reunited with Blake Coleman. We could have had such an iconic reunion, but unfortunately, he finds himself wasting away with the New Jersey Devils for the next few years. Obviously, when you say Palat, you know that he is a scoring machine. He is a nice depth. I say depth, but Tampa is so deep that they essentially did have two first lines, and then their third line was really a second line, But it would have been really nice to see him there, but good luck in a rebuild. I'm sure that's going to be very frustrating, going from winning back-to-back Stanley Cups to performing or playing in another Stanley Cup final to having to smell the city of Newark, New Jersey every day. If you know, you know. The Strome brothers. Okay, this is the one, or these are the two, I guess, that really, really, I don't want to say upset me, but I didn't enjoy this. I did not enjoy seeing that these two names had been signed. Ryan Strome had such a great year last year with the Rangers that, I think whoever was going to get him was, again, going to probably overpay. The Rangers weren't going to be able to re-sign him, so it makes sense that he hit the market. But just to have a great year and then find himself, with another team is very frustrating. We really could have used a nice forward, again, another winger, versatile winger that would have really benefited the Flames. But again, we can't just waste away in these what could have been scenarios. Otherwise, we will be doing ourselves a disservice and crying all the time. Dylan Strome would have been a fantastic signing for down the middle. You have Elias Lindholm, maybe Backlund, Sean Monahan starting the season on LTIR. So, you could put Dylan Strome even, at your second line, Backlund, and then whoever your fourth line center is. Is that going to be, I don't know. My brain is absolutely fried. But, the Flames could have used him. And I just think that it's really one of the more unfortunate signings and names that they missed out on because of that. It would have been nice to have him. He had an excellent year. I believe he also had a career year. It's just, it's so frustrating to watch the Flames miss out on these names, especially when, there are other teams in the Pacific getting better, and not just the Pacific, but the West as a whole. And to go from a truly competitive team to worse is not great. I think that, they're leaving names on the table. And it could be for two reasons, right? It shows that they have two plans. Retooling from within, which we're going to talk about next, or they have all their eggs now in the Tkachuk basket in terms of negotiating and trying to get him to sign long-term. But it's painful. It is so painful to watch other teams in your division, especially, the Kings even, and the Oilers, and the Ducks get better, and then you're significantly worse. But this is kind of a name that I'm glad that the Flames kind of skipped out on, but I need to mention him because he does have a lot of scoring power when he is healthy, and that is Ondrej Kase. Ondrej Kase is 26, 27-year-old forward, but he is high risk because he has suffered so many head injuries, and I think he played maybe 2 games for Boston when he was traded, and it was brutal. His first game back, so no, it was the second year of his final year of the contract after he had gotten traded, and it was a shortened season, and he ended up only playing 1 game, and then he was like 1 shift, I'm pretty sure, and then he was immediately hit in the head again. But then he goes and tears it up in Toronto. So, good for him. I hope that he's doing well. He is so young. And I do feel bad for him, but I hope that signing in Carolina is good for him. I hope that he's able to find his footing again and is really just healthy. And Mason Marchment had a crazy year in Florida. And then he is on the move to Dallas. So this is, again, another excellent forward that the Flames missed out on. I think that, a lot of players are kind of just taking the money that they can get, and probably sticking around in the States is easier for him, I'm sure. I know, well, it's actually, I was going to say him and his sister both play for teams that wear green jerseys, but I'm almost positive that Kennedy signed with the Rivs, so they're not green. But I think that teams are scooping up what they can, and they're the Stars are getting better, basically, is what I'm trying to say, and good for them. bad for us. But coming up next, we are absolutely going to talk about the Flames' plan, what they could be doing, and what if they don't go out there and sign some low-risk, high-reward players. But first, let's talk about our partners at BetOnline. As a reminder, please remember to gamble responsibly if you are gambling. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's MLB All-Star break, the trade deadline, and you name it, some NFL futures as well. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And betonline.net remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. You can find all of your favorite sports there, events, including MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Again, thank you all so much for following along with me through this off season. If you're watching on YouTube, you probably just saw my Twitter handle flash across your screen, and you can follow me on Twitter at JessBelmosto. I was talking with Seth from Locked On Wild last night, and that episode is going live, I believe, Tuesday. And he got me thinking. He did. Bill Guerin is counting on his younger stars in the AHL, like Matt Boldy and Marco Rossi, to be able to break the roster and fill in the spots for, 20-plus goal scorer Kevin Fiala, who was traded, right? But what if the Flames don't go out there and sign at least just, not even like a Gaudreau, but some other just, I don't want to say quiet names, but one of the lesser names out there that could still make an impact. What are they doing? I think that they will be not retooling or rebuilding, but I think that they are hoping that players like Pelletier and Ruzicka and maybe even Connor Zary are ready to make the jump. Husso Valimaki, I don't know if him and Daryl Sutter are going to be able to make up and kind of start over there, on the defense, since they did lose Goodbranson. It is just a big head scratcher, and I really think that is kind of what they're hoping for. I think they're hoping for the AHL players to be ready to go and to be able to say, okay, we're ready to make the jump, and that's why we signed a bunch of depth players or like random names so they can still have a full roster in the AHL. I almost said Stockton, but they're not in Stockton anymore. So, with them signing Kevin Rooney, he's obviously going to be one of your fourth liners. He's going to probably take over a spot for Trevor Lewis or Lucic. And I would assume that, you're going to have players like Pelletier or Matthew Phillips or Ruzicka really in your bottom six. Unless for some reason, you really believe that they can make that jump to the top six. But I think that's putting, again, too much trust in young players and your expectations. Their contracts are a lot easier to pay than a standard player contract. An entry-level contract is usually what, like $750,000, $800,000 compared to, $3-4 million bucks. So you just gotta kind of wait it out and see. I'm hoping that the negotiations with the RFAs are going well. Do I think that Tkachuk is probably we'll be talking about this in September? Probably. I would assume so. I have no faith that we'll see something before camp. I mean, if you watched the live stream with Audie and I earlier this week, we talked about how long the entry level, the first RFA, contract negotiations went. We saw how long Brady's contract negotiations went, and I think that Matthews are going to be a lot longer, if not worse, because especially with Gaudreau out of the picture. I'm sorry, I said I wasn't going to mention Gaudreau, but Mangiapane's agent said they don't want to do a 1 or 2 year deal. So he's probably not going to sign his qualifying offer. He's probably going to negotiate something. And Oliver Shillington, I don't know what they could do there. It's interesting that they qualified him, but again, I don't know what this plan is. I truly don't. I think that obviously Shillington is a better option than what you have in Stockton, especially with Chris Tanev starting the season on, I don't know if it'll be LTIR, but I know that he's not going to be immediately readily available. So again, we don't know. I think that Treliving knows that his days are numbered. I think if he was able to get a Gaudreau deal done, then he'd probably be seeing an extension. But I would assume that he loses his job at some point in the season, or they just let him walk at the end of this contract, which is, I believe, this year. So, you just got to kind of cross your fingers and hope that the Flames are able to get long-term deals done. And I do think that there are players in their system who are ready to make that jump, like Ruzicka. I think that Ruzicka really should have been seeing time in the playoffs, to be entirely honest. I think that Pelletier and Phillips, they both had killer seasons in the AHL. So bring them up. I think it's, one of those things where you can not risk. I feel like risk isn't the right word. You're at a position where you can afford to do that. So try them out. Let them get their feet in the water, especially because, you're going to have injuries to start the year. Sean Monahan has not started. I don't believe he's going to be healthy to start the season. So why not put Ruzicka back up there? Why not? You kind of have wiggle room and a little bit of time to experiment. And especially if, you're not going to be a truly competitive team, you have a lot of question marks around you. So why don't you just kind of, I don't want to say tank, because that's not the thing we're looking for, but, just kind of play around with it, see what works. It's time to experiment. Who cares? You're not a Stanley Cup contender right now. So how fast that window closed. But yeah, just go for it, right? Coming up next, we are going to talk about our winners and losers of the week. And I pinky promise with a cherry on top, I will not be naming the Flames or Blue Jackets here. We just want to talk about some other names. My favorite part of hosting this podcast is getting creative and seeing some other, feedback from other shows or what y'all have to say to me on Twitter. And last night on Twitter, I said that the Cincinnati Reds beat the Yankees and took, one of the best teams in baseball to extra innings twice. And then people were like, you're a Red Sox fan. You just got swept by the Rays. 16 and a half games back. And I was like, okay, but did I just lose to the Reds? No. So for that, the Cincinnati Reds are my winner of the week because, you had to take the Yankees. I think they are the best team in baseball to extra innings, not once, but twice in a 4-game series, and you win. You split the series. I don't care if the Red Sox just got swept by the Tampa Bay Rays. Chris Sale is back. I'm having fun watching the Yankees lose. It is so much fun watching them lose. And speaking of losers, I have Chuck Fletcher as the biggest loser of the week, probably of the off season, if I'm being honest. he bought out Oscar Lindblom's contract to move money to bring in Nick Delorier and Tony DeAngelo. That's a real reason to move money right there, right? I mentioned this the other day, but Ryan Ellis's injury is a lot worse or a lot more intricate and complex than what they're leading on to the public. And you could have put him on LTIR to bring in, someone like Nazem Kadri, or bring back Claude Giroux, or even another guy who's from the area. I forget his name, but there was just so many question marks around every time this man opens his mouth and says, we couldn't take the risk to do this, or he said Nick Delorier was one of the best players in the league or something, and you can't find many players like him. I hollered when I read that. I think that is one of the funniest things I've ever read from a general manager. I think there comes a point where you have to stop lying to yourself and say, maybe I'm just not good at this job. And again, I was talking to Seth from Locked On Wild about Chuck Fletcher's tenure in Minnesota and just how different it is from Bill Guerin. And I don't know. The Flyers we thought that they couldn't put butts in the seat last year. It's going to be even worse this year. And part of me really wonders how long ownership is going to put up with that. So best of luck to Flyers fans, if there are any left. I don't know. I think a lot of them jumped ship. But yeah, you know what? Listen to Locked On Flyers to kind of get a more in-depth and honest opinion of what's going on there. And just a reminder, next week I am on vacation, so I have pre-recorded episodes going out that are a lot of crossover shows, and any news that happens, like any big free agency signings or trades, extensions, anything will be, I think I'm coming back Thursday or Friday. So yeah, whenever that happens, I will be back, and I'm looking forward to seeing, I would say, all your lovely faces, but I just see myself in this camera. But thank you again. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at Jess Belmosto. And of course, you can follow the show at LO_FlamesPod. And I will talk to you later.